I'm Marvin, 52M, and I've been through a roller coaster of emotions these past 12 years. My ex-wife, Miranda, 50F, and I divorced after 18 years of marriage. It was a messy split that left me feeling betrayed and alone. The worst part? Our daughter, Aubrey, 26F, decided to cut all contact with me and sided with her mother. Let me give you some background. I grew up in a middle-class family in a small town. My parents worked hard to provide for me and my younger brother, Tom. They instilled in us the value of hard work and education. I was always good with numbers, so I decided to pursue accounting in college. That's where I met Miranda. Miranda was studying literature and dreamed of becoming a writer. She was vibrant, full of life, and had a way with words that captivated me. We were opposites in many ways, but we balanced each other out. I was the practical one, while she brought spontaneity and creativity into my life. We dated for 3 years before getting married at 24. It was a small ceremony in my parents' backyard, with just close family and friends. We were young and in love, ready to take on the world together. 2 years into our marriage, Aubrey was born. She was the light of our lives. I can still remember holding her for the first time, this tiny bundle wrapped in a pink blanket. Miranda and I were overjoyed, and for a while, everything seemed perfect. I worked hard as an accountant, often putting in long hours to provide for my family. Miranda decided to be a stay-at-home mom, which we both agreed was best for Aubrey. She put her writing dreams on hold, saying she'd get back to them when Aubrey was older. As the years went by, I noticed changes in our relationship. Miranda became restless. She started talking about feeling unfulfilled, like she had lost herself in motherhood. I tried to be supportive, encouraging her to pursue her writing again. I even bought her a laptop for her birthday one year, hoping it would reignite her passion. But instead of writing, Miranda started going out more with her friends. She joined a book club, then a yoga class, then started taking art lessons. I was happy she was finding things she enjoyed, but it meant I was often left to take care of Aubrey when I got home from work. I didn't think much of it at first. I loved spending time with my daughter, helping her with homework, or just watching movies together. But as Aubrey got older, she started spending more time with her friends, and I found myself alone more often. That's when I started noticing other changes in Miranda. She was always on her phone, smiling at text messages, and being secretive. If I asked who she was talking to, she'd quickly say it was just her book club friends or her yoga instructor. I tried to ignore the nagging feeling in my gut. I didn't want to be the jealous, suspicious husband. I trusted Miranda. We had been together for so long, I couldn't imagine her betraying that trust. But then came that fateful day. I had a migraine and decided to leave work early. I didn't call ahead because I thought I'd surprise Miranda and maybe we could have a quiet afternoon together while Aubrey was at school. When I walked into our bedroom, I found Miranda with another man. It was like my whole world came crashing down. The man, who I later learned was her art instructor, quickly left. Miranda broke down crying, begging me to let her explain. Through her tears, she admitted to having multiple affairs over the past few years. She said she felt neglected because of my long work hours and found comfort elsewhere. She claimed she still loved me but wasn't in love with me anymore. I was devastated. All those years of hard work, of building a life together, seemed to crumble in an instant. I couldn't bear to stay in the house, so I packed a bag and went to stay with my brother, Tom. The next few weeks were a blur. I filed for divorce, and that's when things got really ugly. Miranda hired a cutthroat lawyer who tried to paint me as an absent, uncaring father. They argued that because I worked long hours, I wasn't involved in Aubrey's life and that Miranda deserved full custody. I fought hard. I had witnesses testify about how involved I was in Aubrey's life despite my work schedule. I had records of every school event I attended, every parent-teacher conference, every doctor's appointment. In the end, we got joint custody. But the damage was done. Aubrey, who was 14 at the time, had heard all the accusations thrown around during the divorce proceedings. Miranda had gotten to her, filling her head with stories about how I didn't care about them, how I chose work over family. I tried to maintain a relationship with Aubrey, but she was angry and hurt. She refused to listen to my side of the story. Every time I tried to explain, she'd accuse me of trying to turn her against her mother. Eventually, she stopped responding to my calls and messages altogether. Losing Aubrey was harder than the divorce itself. She was my little girl, the one who used to run to me with skinned knees for me to kiss better, the one who'd beg me to read her just one more bedtime story. And now, she wanted nothing to do with me. After the divorce, I threw myself into work. I got promoted to senior accountant and bought a small house. I dated casually but never could bring myself to fully trust anyone again. The betrayal from Miranda had left deep scars. The only family I had left was my mom. She had been diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's shortly after my divorce. It was hard seeing the woman who had always been my rock slowly slipping away. But caring for her gave me a sense of purpose. For the past 7 years, I've been juggling my career and taking care of my mom. It's been tough, but it's also been rewarding in its own way. I've learned patience and compassion in ways I never knew I could. During this time, I tried reaching out to Aubrey a few times, especially when my mom's condition worsened. I thought maybe she'd want to see her grandmother before it was too late. But my messages went unanswered. My mom passed away 3 months ago. It was a difficult time, and I felt more alone than ever. The funeral was small, just me, Tom, and a few close friends. Aubrey didn't come, and I didn't expect her to. I inherited my mom's house and some savings, which turned out to be a substantial amount due to my grandfather's smart investments. Now, here's where things get complicated. Last week, I received a call from an unknown number. When I answered, I heard a voice I hadn't heard in years. It was Aubrey. She said she saw on Facebook that her grandmother had passed away and wanted to check on me. I was shocked and emotional. We talked for a bit, and she suggested meeting up. I was over the moon. I thought this was my chance to reconnect with my daughter and maybe even rebuild our relationship. We agreed to meet at a local cafe over the weekend. When I saw Aubrey, I barely recognized her. The teenager I remembered had grown into a beautiful young woman. We talked about her life. She's working as a teacher now and engaged to be married. I told her about my work and taking care of Grandma. It was a bit awkward at first, but I felt we were making progress. Then, Aubrey dropped the bomb. She said she was reaching out because she thought there might be an inheritance from her grandmother, and she could use some financial help with her upcoming wedding. I was stunned. All this time, I thought she genuinely wanted to reconnect, but it seemed like she was only after money. I didn't know how to react. Part of me wanted to give her whatever she wanted just to keep her in my life. But another part felt hurt and used. I told her I needed time to think about it and would get back to her. Now, I'm torn. Should I give Aubrey part of the inheritance to maintain a relationship with her? Or should I stand my ground and risk losing her again? I don't want to be used, but I also don't want to lose my only child. Any advice would be appreciated. Update 1. Thank you all for your responses. Your advice and perspectives have given me a lot to think about. I wanted to give you an update on what's happened since my last post. After much contemplation, I decided to meet with Aubrey again. I felt I needed to have an honest conversation with her about my feelings and concerns. We met at the same cafe, and this time, I was determined to get to the bottom of her intentions. Before I dive into what happened at our meeting, let me give you some more context about my relationship with Aubrey before the divorce. When she was little, we were inseparable. I'd come home from work, no matter how tired I was, and we'd have our special daddy-daughter time. We'd build pillow forts, have tea parties with her stuffed animals, or just sit and color together. As she grew older, our bond remained strong. I coached her soccer team when she was 10, despite knowing next to nothing about the sport. I stayed up late helping her with science fair projects. I was the one who taught her to ride a bike, who held her hand on her first day of middle school when she was nervous about making new friends. That's why it hurt so much when she cut me out of her life after the divorce. It felt like all those years, all those memories, meant nothing to her. So, when we met at the cafe, all these memories were swirling in my mind. I started by telling Aubrey how hurt I was that she only reached out after learning about the potential inheritance. I explained that I had tried to contact her multiple times over the years, especially when her grandmother's health was declining. I showed her the unanswered text messages and emails I had sent. There were birthday wishes, Christmas greetings, and even a long email I had sent on her 18th birthday, pouring my heart out and asking for a chance to explain my side of the story. Aubrey seemed taken aback. She admitted that she had blocked my number years ago at her mother's insistence and hadn't seen any of my attempts to reach out. She said she regretted not giving me a chance to explain my side of the story during the divorce and acknowledged that she had been manipulated by Miranda's version of events. She told me about how, in the years following the divorce, Miranda had painted me as the villain. According to Miranda, I had chosen my career over my family, neglected them, and the affairs were just a symptom of a larger problem. Aubrey, hurt and confused, had believed her mother without question. However, Aubrey also defended her actions, saying that she was young and confused at the time of the divorce. She insisted that reaching out now wasn't just about the money, but also about wanting to reconnect. She said she had been thinking about contacting me for years but was afraid I wouldn't forgive her. I listened to her explanations, trying to understand her perspective. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the timing of her reappearance was too convenient. I decided to be direct and asked her what she would do if there was no inheritance. Aubrey hesitated before saying that she still wanted to try and rebuild our relationship, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes. It was clear that the prospect of financial help had been a significant motivator in her reaching out. At that point, I made a decision. I told Aubrey that while I was happy she reached out, I needed time to process everything. I explained that the inheritance was currently tied up in legal proceedings, a white lie, and that it would take some time before anything could be distributed. I said I would be open to working on our relationship in the meantime, without the pressure of financial expectations. Aubrey seemed conflicted but agreed. We parted ways with a tentative plan to meet again in a few weeks. After our meeting, I received a flurry of text messages from Miranda. Apparently, Aubrey had told her about our conversations. Miranda accused me of being selfish and trying to punish Aubrey for the past. She demanded that I do the right thing and give Aubrey her share of the inheritance. Reading Miranda's messages brought back a flood of memories from our marriage. I remembered how she used to manipulate situations to get her way, how she would twist my words and actions to fit her narrative. It felt like history repeating itself. I was furious. It was clear that Miranda was still trying to control the situation, still trying to paint me as the bad guy. I didn't respond to her messages, choosing instead to block her number. Now, I'm left wondering if I made the right decision. Part of me hopes that by removing the immediate prospect of money, I can see if Aubrey genuinely wants a relationship with me. But another part fears that I'm setting myself up for more heartbreak. I've decided to take some time for myself before making any final decisions. I'm planning a solo trip to the mountains, a place my dad used to take me and Tom camping when we were kids. I hope that being in nature, away from the chaos of everyday life, will help me gain some perspective. When I return, I'll reassess the situation and decide how to move forward with Aubrey. I want to believe that the little girl who used to look at me like I hung the moon is still in there somewhere. But I also need to protect myself from being hurt again. Thank you all again for your support and advice. It means more than you know to have people to talk to about this. I'll update you again when I return from my trip. Update 2. Hello everyone. I'm back with another update, and things have taken an unexpected turn. I returned from my solo trip to the mountains feeling refreshed and more clear-headed. The time alone in nature, surrounded by the peace and quiet of the wilderness, gave me the space I needed to process everything that had happened. I thought about my relationship with Aubrey, from her childhood to our current situation, and tried to see things from her perspective. I remembered a camping trip I took with Aubrey when she was 12, just a couple of years before the divorce. We had hiked to a beautiful lake, and as we sat by the campfire that night, Aubrey had confided in me about her fears of growing up, of changing schools, of not fitting in. I had reassured her, telling her that no matter what changes life brought, I would always be there for her. The irony of that promise, given our current situation, wasn't lost on me. After much reflection, I had decided to give Aubrey one more chance to prove that she wanted a relationship with me, regardless of any potential inheritance. I was prepared to have a frank discussion with her about my expectations and boundaries. However, before I could reach out to Aubrey, I received a surprising email from her. In it, she apologized for her behavior and admitted that she had initially reached out with the intention of securing some financial help for her wedding. She said that our conversations and seeing the evidence of my attempts to contact her over the years had made her realize how much she had missed out on. Aubrey explained that she had a long talk with her fiancé, Mark, 28M, about the situation. She said Mark encouraged her to be honest with me and to try to rebuild our relationship without any financial motivations. She also shared that Mark had lost his own father to cancer a few years ago, and he didn't want Aubrey to miss the opportunity to have a relationship with her dad. I was cautiously optimistic about this development. It seemed like Aubrey had done some soul-searching of her own. I replied to her email, thanking her for her honesty and suggesting we meet again to talk things through. We agreed to meet at a local park this time, a place where I used to take Aubrey to feed the ducks when she was little. Aubrey brought Mark along, which I appreciated. It showed me that she was serious about including me in her life. As we walked through the park, memories flooded back. I could almost see the ghost of a little Aubrey running ahead of me on the path, her pigtails bouncing as she laughed. It was bittersweet, thinking of all the years we had lost. We had a long, emotional conversation where Aubrey opened up about her feelings during and after the divorce. She admitted that she had believed her mother's version of events without question and regretted not giving me a chance to explain my side. She told me about the confusion and anger she felt as a teenager, and how she had channeled all of that into blaming me. I shared my own experiences and the pain of losing her. I told her about the countless nights I had spent staring at her picture, wondering what she was doing, if she was happy, if she ever thought about me. We both shed some tears, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was truly connecting with my daughter. Mark seemed like a good guy. He was supportive of Aubrey but also respectful towards me. He even apologized for their initial approach regarding the inheritance, saying it was his idea because they were struggling with wedding expenses. He explained that he had lost his job due to company downsizing and they were trying to cut costs wherever they could. At the end of our meeting, Aubrey invited me to her wedding. She made it clear that this invitation wasn't contingent on any financial support, but rather because she wanted me there as her father. She even tentatively asked if I would consider walking her down the aisle, though she said she would understand if I wasn't comfortable with that yet. I was touched by the gesture, but I told them I needed some time to think about it. While I was happy with the progress we'd made, I was still wary of getting hurt again. The wounds from the past 12 years weren't going to heal overnight. After they left, I received another series of angry messages from Miranda. She had found out about our meeting and was furious that I was manipulating Aubrey. She threatened to tell Aubrey the truth about why I was really absent during her childhood. I'm not sure what truth Miranda is referring to, but it's clear she's not happy about Aubrey and I reconnecting. I'm worried about what she might do or say to sabotage our fragile new relationship. It brings back memories of how Miranda used to pit Aubrey against me during the divorce, and I fear history might repeat itself. So now, I'm at a crossroads. Do I accept Aubrey's invitation and try to move forward, knowing that Miranda might try to interfere? Or do I protect myself and maintain some distance? I'm leaning towards giving it a chance, but I'm still unsure. The idea of walking Aubrey down the aisle brings up a mix of emotions. On one hand, it's something I've dreamed about since she was little. On the other hand, I'm afraid of getting my hopes up only to be disappointed again. I'd appreciate any thoughts or advice you might have. Thank you all for your continued support through this emotional journey. Update 3. Hello everyone. I have what might be my final update on this situation. After much consideration, I decided to accept Aubrey's invitation to her wedding. I felt that if I was ever going to have a relationship with my daughter again, I needed to take this chance. The weeks leading up to the wedding were a mix of excitement and anxiety. Aubrey and I had several more meetings, sometimes with Mark present, sometimes just the two of us. We talked about the past, cleared up misunderstandings, and started to rebuild our bond. It wasn't always easy, but it felt genuine. We revisited old memories, both good and bad. Aubrey told me about her first day of high school, how she had wished I was there to see her off. I shared stories about her early childhood that she didn't remember, like how she used to insist on wearing her princess costume to the grocery store. These conversations were healing, but they also highlighted how much we had missed out on. There were so many milestones in Aubrey's life that I hadn't been a part of: her high school graduation, her college years, her first job. It was bittersweet to hear about these events, but I was grateful she was willing to share them with me now. However, true to form, Miranda tried to cause problems. A week before the wedding, she sent Aubrey a long email filled with accusations about me. She claimed that I had been unfaithful during our marriage, that I had neglected Aubrey on purpose, and that I was only pretending to care now because of guilt. Thankfully, Aubrey came to me with the email instead of believing it outright. We had a long, emotional conversation where I was able to refute Miranda's claims with evidence, old emails, testimonies from mutual friends, and even some old home videos that showed a different picture than what Miranda was painting. Aubrey was upset with her mother's attempts to manipulate her again. She made the difficult decision to uninvite Miranda from the wedding. It wasn't an easy choice for her, but she felt it was necessary to break free from her mother's toxic influence. The wedding day arrived, and it was beautiful. Seeing Aubrey in her wedding dress brought tears to my eyes. It reminded me of the day she was born, how tiny and perfect she had been. Now here she was, all grown up and starting a new chapter of her life. In the end, Aubrey asked both me and her Uncle Tom to walk her down the aisle. It was a compromise that felt right, acknowledging both her past and her hopes for the future. As we walked towards Mark, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in years. During the reception, Aubrey and Mark surprised me. They announced that they didn't want any wedding gifts, but instead asked guests to donate to an Alzheimer's research charity in memory of my mother. I was deeply touched by this gesture. It showed me that Aubrey truly wanted to be a part of my life, including honoring the grandmother she hadn't seen in years. After the wedding, Aubrey and I had a heart-to-heart. She apologized again for her initial motives in reaching out and thanked me for giving her another chance. I told her that while we can't erase the past, I'm looking forward to being part of her future. We've made plans to meet regularly and are even talking about a family trip with Mark next summer. It's still early days, and we're taking things slowly, but I feel cautiously optimistic about our relationship. As for the inheritance issue, I've decided to set up a trust fund for Aubrey's future children, my potential grandchildren. This way, I can ensure the money is used for their education and well-being, rather than it being a source of conflict between us. Miranda has tried to contact both of us several times since the wedding, but we've both decided to maintain no contact with her for now. It's not an easy situation, but it feels like the healthiest choice for all of us. Thank you all for your support and advice throughout this journey. While things aren't perfect, I feel like I've got my daughter back, and that's worth more than any inheritance.